Good evening, Garden City. I'd like to call to order our regular scheduled council meeting for Monday, June 17th, 2019 at 7 p.m. Our first order of business is our national anthem, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence for those service members that have given their lives while defending our country. Would everybody please stand? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. Mr. Miller, can you take the roll, please?
Mayor Walker.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Jacobs.
Here.
Councilmember Lynch.
Here.
Councilmember Squires.
Here.
Councilmember Earl.
Here.
Councilmember McCarge.
Here.
Councilmember Kerwin.
Here.
Okay, we'll move on to item 4, approval of the agenda as presented.
Mayor,
Councilmember Lynch.
I move for the approval of the agenda for Monday, June 17, 2019, as presented. Support.
Support from Councilmember Squires. Any comments from the table? From the general public? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, passes 7-0. We will move on to item 5, recognition. If I could have Nolan FERRARO and his mom and dad, Dave and Becky, come to the podium. Mr. Plomaden, the Parks and Rec Director. Katie Smith from Parks and Rec. We have an athlete among us tonight. We are so proud of him. Come back over here. How you doing, Nolan? Okay, I'm going to read this plaque, and we're going to present it to him. Resolution of recognition adopted by the City Council of the City of Garden City, Michigan on June 7, 2019, honoring Nolan FERRARO. Whereas Nolan participated in the local pitch hit run competition held at Garden City Park on May 15, 2019, where Nolan finished as the top performer in baseball 7- and 8-year-old division running event, tied for first in the pitching event, and was the overall top performer in his age bracket. Whereas Nolan advanced to compete in the pitch, hit, and run sectional competition in Dearborn Heights on May 19, 2019, where Nolan finished as all-around champion for baseball 7- and 8-year-old division, making him eligible to advance to the state finals at Comerica Park. Whereas Nolan was one of 650,000 people across the country that competed for the chance to advance to the state finals, which he did so at Comerica Park on June 15, 2019, and finished first overall in baseball 7- and 8-year-old team competition, qualifying him for Major League Baseball National Pitch, Hit, and Run competition to be held at the Major League All-Star Game in Cleveland, Ohio on July 9, 2019. Now, therefore, be resolved that the City Council of Garden City acknowledges Nolan for his accomplishments on the baseball field and has represented Garden City proudly and wishes him the best in life, school, and in sports. Furthermore, resolved that the mayor and city council of Garden City, on behalf of all of our citizens, do hereby present the resolution of recognition to Nolan FERRARO, commending him for his accomplishments thus far and wishing him the best of luck qualifying at the National Pitch, Hit, and Run competition in the 2019 Major League All-Star Game in Cleveland, Ohio. We are so proud of you. I got to ask, was he named after Nolan Ryan?
There's a little bit in there.
Was he? That was a good guess. That's awesome. Let's go over here to the center. So, I don't know if you guys realize how many people are in this event. This is quite an accomplishment for a 7, 8-year-old. And when you watch the All-Star Game on national TV in July, we'll see him on there.
We hope to. We find out soon. He's one of the top 3.
But I'm confident he'll be there. And thank you for putting Garden City on the map. We are so proud of you. Let's give him a hand. Okay, at this time, we will have comments from state and county officials. Is there anybody here from Wayne County Commissioner Glenn Anderson's office?
I don't see anybody.
State Representative and State Senator Betty Jean Alexander. Still not here, okay. Seeing none, we will move on to item 8. Monica Fulton, Community Events, Available America Corp. Positions.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. I'm just here today to let you all and the community know that the Community Resources Department was approved for 2 AmeriCorps positions through the Community Economic Development Association of Michigan, otherwise known as CEDM. And we are currently recruiting for those positions. These are full-time positions through the AmeriCorps program. And the members receive a modest living allowance for serving. They get an education award at the end of their service term. They get assistance with public benefits during their service and numerous professional development and networking opportunities while they serve. We have a current AmeriCorps member with us, Faith. It just happens to be here tonight observing. But she had this to say about her service with us in the Garden City community. She says, "I have gained professional experiences while working with a great team that really cares about the people they serve." And that is what AmeriCorps is about, is serving your local community. So AmeriCorps members work to eliminate poverty and support their community in a number of ways. Interested people can email their resume directly to Megan Sheeran at megan.s@gardencitymi.org. And it requires a bachelor's degree or any combination of education and experience that will provide the necessary skills needed to carry out the job duties. They must be 18 years old, pass a background check, and have a valid driver's license and a car available. That's it. So we welcome all the applicants that we can. We really want to get some great team members on board. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Fulton. Appreciate that. Okay, item 9, petitions, communications. We have none tonight. This time, we're going to have our public hearing on the sewer rate ordinance amendment. I'm going to let Mr. Miller speak of it first before I ask the public if they have any comments. Mr. Miller?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. This evening before you is the public hearing to have an increase to the sewage rates for the city of Garden City. At the last council meeting, we had a presentation from an engineer from Wayne County talking about how this increase is come about regarding the Rouge Valley Sewer District. And the Rouge Valley Sewer District is making a number of improvements to their system. We have made private, our city sewers have been improved. It's where we're connecting to the Rouge Valley sewers, and that from that point on, the system is being improved. The way that the ordinance reads is that it is a consumption-based increase. So in the ordinance that is before you this evening, it is an increase from $50.38 to $60.36, roughly a $9.98 increase, but that is based on a cubic foot computation. And 1,000 cubic feet equals about 7,500 regular gallons of water. So it again, based on the consumption of what people use in their homes, will make the determination of how this is determined. So will it go up all the way, the $9? It depends on if you use more than 7,500 gallons of water at your home, which is quite a lot of water in each cycle. Again, these are a pass-through increase. This is what Rouge Valley is charging the cities, and we're in turn charging the customers for that increase. At the last council meeting, I know there was questions how the other communities had reacted and what had occurred, and I did just a real quick call today. 9 communities have approved them. 2 others have it on their agenda for the next meeting, and then 2 others have it on their consent agenda for this week. So everyone should be on board. That's 13 communities in the Rouge Valley District. And unfortunately, the way our budget works is a little different than how Wayne County's works. We had to get everything done by May 20th, so we had to get all of this completed. They're planning to have these charges in effect for July 1st, so that did necessitate kind of a double public hearings for this water and sewer rate. But it is our recommendation to approve this ordinance as written with the increase of the $60.36.
For the year, okay.
Questions here?
Okay. At this time, I'll open up the public hearing to the public on this. Anybody wishing to speak on the sewer rate ordinance, please come to the podium, state your name and your comment. There is a 3-minute time limit.
Because I don't really use a lot, so I'm gonna shoot myself in the foot. I think everybody should pay the same, since this is for maintenance and stuff, instead of basing it on the consumption. And that's where I'm shooting myself in the foot, because I don't never go over, I'm very low on what I use, so I'm gonna be paying less than a lot of people probably. So I'm shooting myself in the foot, because I think you ought to do it, since everybody gets the benefit of the overall thing. Everybody should pay a flat overall rate.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else?
Hi, Melissa DeMichael, 29636 Hennepin. Last week or 2 weeks ago on the June 3rd meeting, it was stated that you guys were going to go with the alternative number 1 that was going to go up approximately $1.70 per household for the first years, like 1 through 5, for the sewer rate to increase on the bill. And you said it could go up to $9.38 tonight, so I just want to know where that difference is.
I don't remember that portion of the alternative 1, so I'm not sure what was discussed.
Mr.
in
Miller,
the-
I think what she's talking about is our original water sewer that we passed. This is something in addition to that. I think that's what she's talking about.
Okay. If that's the case, then the alternative that we're going with is this $9.98 increase. As the model, I can answer both questions, actually. The model is computed based on usage throughout the whole system, and that's how the value was determined for the $9.98 increase. So it is based on consumption. Our model that is put forth really takes into consideration all of the usage in the city. So that's how we're able to charge somebody that uses less water the same rate, but you're using less water, so it's a consumption base, because the model takes into account the low users, the high users, to give us the average usage. So I don't know if that answers the question or not, but That's what the model came out.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, seeing none, we'll close out the public hearing at this time. Move on to item 11, the consent agenda.
Mayor,
Councilmember Lynch.
I move for the approval of the consent agenda, items 11A, 1 through 4.
Support from Councilmember Squires. Any comments from the table? From the general public? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes 7-0. Moving on to our action items, our first one is the sewer rate ordinance amendment that was the subject of our public hearing a few minutes ago. Councilmember Squires.
I move to approve the amendment to Garden City Code of Ordinances, Section 53.04 of Chapter 53, Title 5 of the City of Garden City Code, providing for rates and charges for sewer service to include the cost improvements to the Rouge Valley sewer system.
Support.
Support from Councilmember Lynch. Any comments from the table? Ms. Lynch?
I understand the question that was asked during the public hearing. When we passed our original water sewer rates, we passed what we normally do every year for Garden City. Last week, after it's already been passed, or not last week, last meeting, Wayne County came to us and said, oh, by the way, we need to charge you extra money because we're going to be putting in for the revolving loan, and it's going to be worked on in all 13 communities, and it's going to cost you more money. So what you're remembering was our original water sewer budget. What happened is, now that Wayne County's charging us additional money, we have to put that on and pass it on. Does that make sense now? Okay.
Mayor?
Just wanted to clarify.
I have a question.
Ms. Cars, go ahead.
Okay. I know when the county first came to the city, they didn't know exactly how much it would cost the city. So evidently, they have come up with a fixed number that it's going to cost us.
Yes, they have.
So it's not based on consumption, it's based on this is how much it's going to cost the city. So my question is, why aren't we putting that under a fixed user charge? Because we know how much it's going to cost per household. And it's for it just, to me, if it goes based on consumption, one, you can't guarantee you're going to come up with the money you need, especially this year when we're getting rain every other day. But two, that means that people who have big yards or big gardens or whatever are going to pay more than the person who is using less water for a fixed item. I mean, that was why we did the fixed, the annual fixed user charge, was so that everyone was paying a fair amount for the infrastructure. This is an infrastructure. So I'm very concerned about jumping from $50.38 to $60.36 per cubic foot, when we could say, and I heard, and I'm not sure if this number is correct, that it's going to cost each household, if they divided this amongst the households, it would be $65 a year. So why isn't that being put in the fixed? The county doesn't tell us how to get the money.
Correct.
Okay.
But when they came up with this averaged, I don't have it, it was at the last meeting, when they came up with an average usage for the city of Garden City, that's what they made the determination of what the fee would be. So it is based on kind of consumption of old, is how they made the determination to charge us for the rate. So when the model, Plant Moran did the model for us to give us this amount. But when they did the model, they used the same factors that the county used to also give us the rate that we would also be paying because it is really based on consumption. It's a history of consumption is what will make the payment. And then, again, the high users will pay a little more, the low users will pay a little less. And in essence, we have not been given an exact amount of what it's going to cost the city from the county. They made that average of, I think it was 6.34 cents, I think a gallon or something like that in the last presentation. And so they've made that's an average of what we use. Again, how much we're giving a flow back to the system. And the sewer rate flow really is a little less than what is consumed because some of it is lost to gardens, lawns, that. But the Rouge Valley will not allow a separate system, a separate meter for that usage.
Just a question, so I can understand, make sure I understand this right then. So even though the county doesn't tell us how we can pay for this, they're basing it on consumption or what goes through the sewer?
On the history of our consumption,
Okay.
yes.
So they did not give us an amount for this year?
They have not. They gave
I
us
mean, how will the city be billed?
it will be billed monthly. Through
Based
this-
on sewer flow?
Based on our history of consumption in the past.
Okay.
And when it comes on the bill, though, when you see it on the first bill, it will have its own line item. So we did do a basis, the calculation, we couldn't add to the fixed rate because it's our fixed rate, not the county's fixed rate. So when it comes on your bill, it will be, the sewer charge will be on the bill, and then there's a computation in BSNA, the software that actually figures out the water bill, and it's going to pull out the sewer fee, and it will be a separate line item, so you'll be able to see exactly what the sewer charge is going to be. So in essence, it kind of is a fixed rate, but we couldn't put it in as our fixed rate because our fixed rate is really the ready-to-serve price that the city charges.
Okay. Just another question, and because a couple people called me about this, and I do understand this now, thank you, I wasn't quite sure. But the other thing is, we increased our water rate this year. We do have money in our water fund. Why aren't we considering absorbing some of this?
Well,
Well, I'm sorry, Matt. That was something we discussed a little bit at the budget, was we have several $1 million right now that's being tied up in the infrastructure. Tonight was one that we're going to be approving in front of the high school of $340-some thousand. If that money is taken away initially the first year, there's still going to be future payments that are going to be continuing, because how long is this increase?
I don't know
How many years? It's 10 years? I thought it was 10 year.
10-year
period.
Yeah,
That
So
is
we
correct.
will take out all the money that we have for infrastructure. That money will go towards this for 1-2 years. Then after that, we're stuck with trying to find money to fix all of our blowouts throughout the city. So the objective is, this is a pass-through that the county is saying, you must pay this. Every community must pay this. So it's a question back and forth of, do we just stop fixing all infrastructure in the city and then just continue our blowouts throughout the area, the city? When we're trying to redo streets now, we're trying to do the water underneath. And we already see now, because of the bond, which is great that we have the road money, we're just doing more streets now than we can catch up to with the money that we have for water. So initially, when we did one road a year, we had enough money to do the water. Now we're doing a lot of roads, so we have to figure out which water we want to do. We can't do it under every single road. If a road has never had a blowout, most likely at this point, we're not going to be redoing those, the pipes underneath those roads. If the money that we have now in reserves that was going towards that infrastructure over the next few years is put towards this, it's only going to cover a year or two. We'll have no money for infrastructure, and in turn, we'll still have to charge the people in a couple of years from now to continue paying this bill as a pass-through. So it's which way the council wants to go of having the money to be able to fix our blowouts in the city, or have nothing left and try to find money later. Yeah.
And I have another question. So you're predicting that increasing it from $50.38 to $60.36 per cube, 1,000 cubic feet, that would cost an average of $65 extra a year.
Roughly, yes.
Okay. If in the future we find that we're not collecting enough, of course, we can increase that. If we find that we're collecting too much, we can decrease it.
Yes. Yes. And for a
'Cause
number,
how did they come up with the $10 increase? Because that seemed like an awful lot, but I don't know how much 1,000 cubic feet of water is, so.
I believe they had a comparison to other cities, and we were
Yes.
on the lower end
we
of
were
the comparisons.
actually.
Is that,
because
Councilman
the
Earl
number-
mentioned that last
yeah.
year, last week.
So, yeah, that's what I'm trying to question is, when they gave the presentation, they gave us a list of the approximate monthly increases in the typical sewer bill. And I'm looking at it right now, Garden City was $3.83. So where's the $9? That's what they said in their presentation. Now, Northville was $11.65. On the high end, we were the lowest. We were $3.83.
I'm not sure about that.
If you scroll down, does it give you the average though, 6.34? I can't see.
Well, I mean, I'm just curious as to why that's what they put to us, and now I'm hearing a different number.
Well, that, again, this is an approximate. Again, it's based on how much you will use. So
But that's
the
a big
average house
difference
that-
between approximate 3 and approximate 9.
Yeah.
That's my question.
It's, the increase is for $9, but it will be based on the consumption of how many gallons you used, 1,000 cubic versus 7,500 actual gallons.
Can this be held off?
It can be.
Let's hold off and come back to make sure. Because I know we talked about the $65 during the budget hearings when we were discussing what may be a surprise.
I'd feel
to
more
everybody.
comfortable holding
Absolutely.
off when I see numbers that are that big a difference.
Council, I need a motion to table.
Yep.
So moved.
Okay, so moved by Councilmember Lynch, supported by Councilmember Squires. And for the residents, Mr. Doherty's definition of blowout and our definition is called water main break. So you don't confuse our residents. You say blowout with water main breaks. Okay, so we got that tabled. Any comments on this?
Got to vote right away,
I know.
no comments.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, hearing none, this will be tabled. Bring it back at the next meeting. Okay, item 2, call for a public hearing to consider election year changes. Mr. Miller, you want to speak on this as well?
Yes, this is to call a public hearing for July 8th, 2019 at 7 o'clock. This is to look at the possibility of moving the election years to the even year cycle. Currently, the city council holds the local elections in the odd year. 2019, for example, is an election year. Public Act 279 was amended in 2012, which is a home rule city act, to allow for the cities to have the flexibility to move their elections to the even year, so that it would be on the governor's and the presidential cycle. And the main reason for that amendment was to give the cities the ability to have the cost savings that comes with not holding their own elections. I've done this in Wayne. It was a successful move as a cost-saving measure to move to the even years. A couple other communities, Lincoln Park, River Rouge, Northfield Township, are all making these changes because the cost to run an election, each election in Garden City runs about $30,000. So in the worst-case scenario, we could have two $60,000 if we had a primary and a general. And again, to have the flexibility to save that much money, I think it is worthy to bring before the council. How it works is really, you will hold a public hearing at the next council meeting, and then you will pass a resolution. In the resolution, gives of course, the authority to move the elections to the even year, and then also it extends the terms for all the sitting council would be extended for 1 year, and then any future council people, because this November, we do have an election for 4 council positions. It would push that to a 5-year term, so that you're on a rotating schedule of 3 that would be up in 2022, 4 in the 2024 election cycle. So again, it's not a charter amendment. The council is given this authority via the state law to have a public hearing, take comment, and at that time, you do have the right to act on that resolution the same evening.
And also for the residents, more people come out for the presidential and governor elections than they do local elections. So this would give, not only is it a cost savings, but it would also, we would get more of our residents voting on the local election. And like you said, it could be 60,000 a year savings to the city.
Well, and Mayor, 2 other things we'll talk about at the next meeting during the public hearing is it's not just the cash itself cost, it's actually the staff time. When elections run for the month leading up to the election, that hallway is jumping and fetching when it comes to absentee ballots and the organization of an election. So there's a lot of staff time put towards it besides financials. And on the other side, if there was a time that the city would like to have a special election for something, a specific bond issue or anything else, we could still always have a separate election. We won't have to just wait. As the school district may have a special election, they come to us, they would pay for their special election. We can still have an election. We're not stuck with only the presidential congressional election. So still gives us the leeway at the same time, saving funds and staff time.
Okay, so the motion is in order to call for a public hearing.
Mayor,
Councilmember McCarge?
I move to call a public hearing for Monday, July 8th, 2019 at 7 p.m. to consider an amended election schedule from the odd year to even year elections for the city council.
Support.
Support from Councilmember Kerwin. Any comments from the table? From the general public?
Good evening, Mayor, Council. I'm Mike Farron. I live on Barton here in town. My only concern with this is extending the term of the 4 that will be elected this fall to a 5-year term when there are only 4 people running. I'm sorry, Ben?
I'm sorry.
Am I
What's on the
mistaken?
table right now is just the public hearing date.
Okay.
We're going to have discussion at
Okay,
the next meeting.
very good.
That's when, okay? Thank you. This is just for the, anybody have any comments on calling for a public hearing on this date? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes 7-0, and we will have discussion that night. Okay, item 3, charter amendment for clerk treasury position.
Mayor?
Mr. Doherty, you want to talk on this first?
Yes, Mayor, this is something that the city's been talking about for many years. We currently have a clerk treasurer position with a deputy treasurer in that office also. By charter, it actually lists that position as well as a page and a half of duties just for that one position. Where you have police department, it lists maybe a paragraph, fire department a paragraph, parks and rec a paragraph. We have a page and a half of specific duties, basically a job description within our charter for the clerk treasurer. I'm not quite sure how that ever happened, but at the same time, you have 2 totally different types of positions together. Clerk treasurer, very few communities are still in that area. They have a clerk's department, and then they have a treasurer's department, also known as a finance department potentially. This is something, one of the first meetings I had with our financial consultants, Plant Moran, who have said for years they felt this absolutely should be a separated position, but they let me know, as I already knew, it's in your charter. At this point, there's nothing you can do. There's still clerk treasurer position. If we're looking to make a change, it has to be a charter change, which is a vote as a referendum through the next election. So what our request here is, and this has been worked with our legal staff. We've gone round and round a number of times here for the last few months. This also goes to the state, through the Attorney General's office, through the Governor's office as approval before it even gets to the citizens to actually vote. So this isn't something done in-house by staff or by the council. This is reviewed to make sure for accuracy that this is allowed. And this would be a charter change. So our request tonight is approving a resolution to move forward to be able to put this item on the agenda for November 5th's election ballot, to actually split the department, clerk treasurer, into the clerk's department and then the treasurer's department.
Okay. Any comments from the table? Okay, motion's in order.
Mayor?
Councilmember Earl.
I move to approve a resolution for the charter amendment of the separation of the clerk treasurer's position for the November 5th, 2019 ballot.
Support.
Support from Councilmember Kerwin. Any comments from the table? From the general public? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Item 4, 2018-19 budget amendment. Mr. Miller, I'm going to let you speak on that again.
Yes. Tonight before you is the third budget amendment for the 2018-19 budget. And again, every month we're working on kind of refining and streamlining the budget so that we have accurate numbers that are before you. And so this is requires an amendment to the budget that was approved. And I'll just go through some of the items for you just to see. This is really going to be the final budget amendment until we close the books June 30th. And so we're looking at having some changes to the general fund where it would be an $83,169 decrease to the general fund balance. And again, we're looking at departments and expenditures that are trending higher than what was projected to cover this overage. And I did want to note to you also, so we're looking at this point in time, only line items that are starting to trend and get near that 100% or going over the 100% of usage. We're not looking at anything that hasn't spent enough. So there's plenty of line items that are under budget, but we don't have to seek an amendment for that, but anything that's trending over, we're required to do so. But again, it was some of the MIDC, we're making adjustments for that. That was the Michigan Indigent Defense Council grant. Some court building fund is being utilized. Obviously, the renovations that went in place for that. The fines and forfeitures are trending a little below budget. So again, that's a revenue that's not equaling what we had projected. And then also, it is to have a transfer out to public safety to just cover a few overages that are occurring through that. Also, in this, we didn't account for the capital projects. So we sold the bonds for the municipal road funds. So we didn't have any accounting for that. That was not included in the budget. This budget amendment includes that $10 million increase, and then also the utilization of $2.5 million that we think we'll use by the end of this year for road project. And then also just in the water and sewer department, there's a $10,926 increase, and that is just based on some staffing for additional expenditures related to full-time maintenance personnel in that department. Right now, as many of you know, we have kind of two people working in that department because we had a transfer occur from the clerk treasurer's office to the DPW water meter reader position. So during that training period, it is trending that up a little bit also.
Okay.
So as Matt said, this is the current amendment, and then we're done with this year, closing the books early. We've reduced spending drastically here in the last month so we can get ahead of the game rather than pushing it to the end of the month. So we're looking good.
Okay, we have, entertain a motion.
Mayor,
Councilmember Jacobs.
I move to approve budget amendment number 3 to the 2018-2019 fiscal year budget.
Support.
Support from Councilmember Earl. Comments from the table? From the general public? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes 7-0. Item 5, Police and Fire Millage Renewal Resolution. I'm going to call up Police Chief Tim Gibbons. Chief?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council. As you know, in 2015, the citizens of Garden City voted to renew a police and fire millage totaling 3.5 mils. It was originally approved in 2011. That renewal extended it through 2020. So in 2020, that millage will be expiring. Using the funds we received since then, this was originally approved in 2011, averted some layoffs and inability to purchase equipment due to all the property tax revenue we lost around 2008. And despite the fact that property values are beginning to increase pretty well in Garden City, because of Headley and Prop A, we're unable to capture those increases for tax revenue. We, the city manager, city clerk, treasurer, and the fire chief sat down recently to evaluate kind of where we stood with public safety funding, to evaluate whether we need to put in front of council whether this millage should be considered for renewal, or at least a resolution to put it on a ballot. So basically, the conclusion we've come to is that tax revenues have not been able to meet up where we need to, and these mills are necessary to continue to fund the police department and maintain the high level of service, and the fire department to maintain their level of service. To put it into context, the millage essentially funds 9 police officer positions, 9 fire department positions, 25% of the police department, 40% of the fire department. These are police officer positions and fireman positions that respond to medical runs, crimes in progress, emergencies, things that meet the basic core functioning of all our departments. I know, when personally speaking from the police department, our staffing levels prior to 2008 was near 50. We're operating with around 33 this year. So just kind of puts it in context. So given the kind of impact that the absence of that money would be on the police and fire department, we're asking that you consider a resolution to place a renewal on November's ballot to renew the police and fire millage for another 5 years. I'd be happy to answer any questions about
Anybody got any questions for the chief?
Now, this is, Mayor, this is a renewal, not an additional.
Correct. This is a millage that's currently being paid, currently on the tax rolls. It'd just be a renewal for another 5 years. I know when it was first passed, the hopes is that tax revenue would eventually catch up to meet that, and then I think our home values are increasing at a good pace. State law, the Constitution and a state law prevents us from capturing that revenue. So in order to maintain the level of service we used to provide, even doing more with less, I think we're meeting a pretty good level of service with a lot less people than we used to have in the early 2000s.
What are we at now, 32 officers?
We're at 33 this year.
33?
We found some funding to go and some mechanisms. The officers
We used to be
will
at 45 in our heyday,
used to
right?
be we were almost at 50 around early 2000. But going up next year, any other additions we've found lately have been through mechanisms such as the Michigan Defense Council grant to get an officer. But those officers are restricted to doing certain types of duties. A traffic officer, he's restricted to doing a certain type of duty.
And we get money from the schools too, don't we, for
And,
the
yep,
officer in the
our
high
school resource
school?
officer. But during the school year, Monday through Friday, he's assigned specifically to the school. So
Okay.
while we add some positions, those are always in mind that those are funded by the activity they do. Really, the core positions that the millage funds are who shows up at your house, takes your report, the fireman that shows up to treat your relatives, something a medical emergency. So that's what this millage funds, and that's why
Okay.
it's important that the voters have an opportunity to decide what kind of level of service they want their police and fire to have.
Okay, thanks, chief.
No problem.
Okay, motion's in order.
Mayor,
Councilmember Kerwin.
motion to approve a resolution for the renewal of the police and fire millage for the November 5th, 2019 ballot.
Support.
Support from Councilmember Squires. Any further comments from the table? From the general public? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Item 6, I'm going to call up Mr. Plamondon, Parks and Rec Director.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Sorry. Tonight, we have before council an agenda item to approve an intergovernmental agreement for improvements through the Wayne County Parks Millage for Helen Park. The project that we've discussed with the Rec Commission is to extend a walk path between Deering and Helen Streets, making it accessible through both sides into that park. We feel it meets a need. There's no accessibility specifically off Helen. Off Deering, it's where the park is closer to, but the project projected budget amount matches the dollar amount that we're receiving from Wayne County. So tonight we're asking council to pass that agreement from the county, and so we can get forward with an RFP.
Okay. Motion's in order.
Mayor,
Councilmember Lynch.
I move to approve the attached intergovernmental agreement between the Charter County of Wayne and the City of Garden City for improvements to Helen Park, which include a new sidewalk between Deering and Helen Streets and other various park updates, and to authorize the Parks and Recreation Director to authorize all necessary documents.
Support.
Support from Councilmember Kerwin. Again, for the residents, this is all being done with grant money, not out of our general fund. Any other comments from the table? From the general public? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion passes 6-0. I'm sorry, 7-0. Mr. Plamanen, stay right there. Item number 7, contract extension for ball field prep services.
So tonight before you is a contract extension proposal for ball field prep services with the company the city has been contracted with, Lac Lamond Landscapes of Canton. We've been under contract with them since 2012. The primary scope of their work is to provide services for the adult softball program. A lot of this was done back in 2012 when there was X amount of services that were cut from the city. One of that was that part-time laborers were performing that job at that time. When that service went away, we contracted it out. Since then, we have added on to their scope. They performed some additional light maintenance duties at some of the youth fields. And in addition to that, this year, that contractor has developed a relationship with GCYA to perform field game prep services at City Park. And that is at a cost to GCYA. We don't pay for that service. So the contractor has held pricing, $25 per game prep. So I feel comfortable recommending that recommendation, and we have a good relationship with him, and he's extended that with the youth athletic organization. So that's where we are.
Okay, motion's in order.
Mayor,
Councilmember Kerwin.
motion to approve the attached 2-year contract extension for Lac Lamond Landscapes of Canton, Michigan through June 30th, 2021, and to authorize the Parks and Recreation Director to execute any necessary documents.
Support.
Support from Councilmember Jacobs. Any comments from the table? From the general public? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Item 8, Middlebelt Water Main. This is for the water main from Cambridge to Maplewood, right along the high school, where we had several blowouts, AKA water main breaks, over the years. And the only ones that liked those water main breaks was the high school students, because they got sent home because there was no water in the building. So this is the time to fix it, while they're out for the summer. So when September comes around, they got a brand-new water main, and that line should be 100%. And this is paid for out of the water fund, and that's what this is about. Mr. Doherty, you have any comments on it?
I think you said it all. It's perfect, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, so motion's in order for the Middlebelt water main work from Cambridge to Maplewood. Councilmember McCarge?
I move to approve the contract for the Middlebelt Road water main replacement, East Side Maplewood to Cambridge Construction Contract Award to Brico Excavate, of Oak Park, Michigan, in an amount not to exceed $315,000, and the Middlebelt Road water main on the site construction management and construction inspection services to the Buccelli Group of Livonia, Michigan, in an amount not to exceed $12,000. And the Middlebelt Road water main replacement, East Side Maplewood to Cambridge construction services to Hennessy Engineers of Southgate, Michigan, in an amount not to exceed $13,450 for a combined total of $340,450.
Support.
Support from Councilmember Kerwin. Any further comments from the table? From the general public?
I just have a question. When is this going to be taking place?
Mr. Doherty?
We're expecting by late August or mid-August to be finished. So we're looking to start immediately. Has to be approved by the council first.
Okay, so is the high school going to have any sewage or water usage during that time frame?
They always do. It's as when you get to the final tie-ins is when the issue becomes a problem. But the school over the summer is limited usage. So they work with us. Whenever we do any roads with bus stops or anything with the school system, they're part of the
Sure.
meetings that we have.
My concern is that we do have a summer community theater program at the high school, and
Yeah.
our show dates, and we go up August 8th. So I just want to make sure that we are going to have water and sewage there for the
Yeah.
residents coming in to see the shows.
Yeah, it's usually the tie-ins at the beginning and the end is when
gonna
it's
be
an
the
issue.
issue. Okay.
Teachers or anyone working in the summer shouldn't have an issue all summer long.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you. Anybody else? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Item 9, purchase of a 30-pound capacity gear washer and gear drying cabinet. I'm going to call up Fire Chief Kathy Harmon. Chief, are you doing the laundry, or?
You know, sometimes, as a matter of fact, I do.
Chief, don't you already have one? Do you need another one?
Yes. If you need a washer, we'll give it to you for a good price.
How old is it?
It's about 20, 25 years old. It has had multiple repairs, multiple breakdowns. In fact, the last time it broke down, they brought an extra piece, the stainless steel basket, and they were just going to change it out because they figured that would get it through till hopefully it got approved. And when he tried to take the bolts off, all the welds started to break, and he was afraid if he made that fix, it would stop working. So it's temporarily working now. What this is an upgrade. It would allow us to do a full set of gear as opposed to having to either do, the shells or the liners, the inside or the outside of the garments. The cabinet itself will allow us to be able to dry the gear the proper way, and it's going to reduce the turnaround time. So it'll be hung up like it's supposed to be. We also has a place in there for boots and gloves and items like that. It's a great cancer initiative prevention movement, and would really appreciate it. What'd you think of the pictures?
Yep.
And Mayor, this is something discussed at the budget. It was budgeted.
Yep.
Since July 1st is the new budget, the fire department, headed by the chief, wanted to get a jump on this and get moving on it because it is so needed for our fire.
Okay. Motion's in order.
Mayor?
Councilmember Earl.
Go ahead. I move to approve the purchase of the gear washer extractor and drying cabinet from Universal Laundry Machinery in the amount of $14,999.
Support.
Support from Councilmember Squires. Any comments from the table?
Long overdue.
Absolutely.
General public? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Opposed? Okay.
All right, I jumped the gun. Thank you.
Yep. I'll bring my laundry over July 1st. Okay, at this time, we'll open up for public comments for items that were not on the agenda. If you wish to speak, come up and state your name. There is a 3-minute time limit. This is your opportunity to make a comment or a statement. It is not the time to go back and forth with council members. Anybody wishing to speak? Mr. Jones.
Mike Jones. Just wanted to follow up on my comment of 2 weeks ago when I mentioned the sad state of my road, particularly my block. Within, I'd say, about 36 hours, DPS was out there 3 times, coal patching. It is now lumpy, but not holy. And I term that an improvement, and I thank them for their response.
So we can take Donnelly off the list now?
Not off the list of streets to be fixed, no, thank you.
I'm kidding. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Good evening, council. My name is Mark Mayday. I hope I can get as much help as Mr. Jones did. I live on Cardwell Street. I live on one of the 5 streets in the city that have ditches. When I was growing up, the city used to come through and dig the ditches out. My father built this house in 1954. I can't tell you the last time the ditches were dug out. The problems that I'm having now is that the water, when it rains, is filling up the ditches. It's filling up the easement, it's covering the new sidewalk that was installed, and it's going up to my house. I've talked to Mr. Omen, and he's doing everything he can, and I appreciate that. What I'm asking for is some help. I don't know what to do anymore. I've got problems, I got water coming in my basement. The ditch is not even existent all the way to the end of the block. And people are parking in the ditches. The road is deteriorated. I noticed after I talked to Mr. Omen, there's a few holes that have got orange rings around them now. I just need to know what I need to do to get the ball rolling to help me out and the rest of the residents on Cardwell Street.
Okay.
I know we're spending a lot of money on roads. I can see it through there. I just need to know when it's my turn so that when I create some investment into this house, I'm not going to have to tear it up to meet what the city has done. I want to put a new apron on the driveway, cement apron. I've got stone there. My culverts are coming out of the ground. It rained what, 2 days ago? And the water hasn't moved. During the winter, if it's got a wet day, the sidewalk get covered with water. I'm trying to scoop the water off the sidewalks with a shovel to it becomes a safety issue. And you got people walking down the sidewalks and falling. I need to clear them from the snow, but I'm fearful that if I clear them, now all I got is ice. Somebody takes a fall, I'm going to get nailed. I had an ordnance officer come out and issue me a citation because there were grass clippings in the yard, in the ditch. He's just doing his job. But it's not the grass clippings that are plugging any of the ditches. There are very little ditch to the house, to the end where it would run from Warren Avenue to James. What do I do?
Okay, we'll take a look at it, sir.
Do we have, after the meeting, give me your address, please. I'm sure Public Works has them. There you go. It's very obvious to me, thank you, sir. Many residents filled in their ditches. And
Yeah, that's part of the problem.
yeah. I've talked to Public Works over the last couple of months as we're doing these roads, and how much do we dig up these ditches to bring them back to what they should be when you see car after car parked and turned into their driveways.
I had a guy parking on the easement, not on the ditch, between the sidewalk and the ditch. And then when I asked him to move the car, it's just a vacant lot. It's the vacant lot that I'm paying taxes for. That's not right.
We'll look into it, sir.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Yes.
Hello, my name is Tracy, and I live here in Garden City for about 15 years now, and I've noticed a huge difference in the fire and police departments as far as what they've offered to my neighbors, myself, and I want to thank you all for passing this up onto us so that we can vote it in order to help them out with anything they need as far as costs go. I would hate to go backwards and have our city look like other cities that are not able to accommodate our people. It's bad enough that dispatch had to leave, unfortunately, but at least we can keep everything up as far as our fire department and our police department goes. Secondly, I have a house that's behind me that it's owned as far as I know, but nobody lives in it, and the water comes from that area and fills from her house all the way through the back of her yard up to my garage, and then goes into my neighbor's, the next neighbor, and then goes off into the street. Somebody purchased a house on the corner of the street next to the lady that I'm speaking of. I don't know her name, otherwise I'd tell you. And they changed the property. They built it up by the house. They put in a drain thing underneath the grass. They, of course, covered all this up before anybody came to approve anything. And that water is now flooding out my neighbor's garage. So how do we resolve something like this? What's the steps I take?
Give us the address, we'll have DPS look at it.
Okay,
Okay?
thanks.
Leave your name
Appreciate it.
and the address. Anybody else? City managers report?
I have nothing tonight, Mayor.
Well,
Just
okay.
welcome to be back to the city.
Councilmember McCarge?
The ditches, and when we were doing some of the roads, and I asked Hennessy about the ditches, they either have to be ditches or not ditches, but if they're not ditches, then we have to put culverts underneath them or some type of a drain thing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the catch, bringing that up. For some reason, an entire block in the city believes that if you just put the pipes underneath, that'll fix things. I'm not sure where the pipe goes, because if you run the pipe from one corner of the intersection to the other corner, and everybody covers it with concrete and grass, the point is to move the water from your driveway from one side to the other, to let the water flow to the intersection. But if it's just pipe underground, where's the water, how's it ever getting into the pipe? And that's the issue we have now, is going back to these homes that have done this, some of them for decades, I'm sure. Do we just go and just dig them out and say, sorry, this is the design that it should be? The water needs to get into the ditches, into the pipes underneath your driveway, and flow to the intersection.
Yeah, and I'd really like, I really hope we do look into that, because, again, it's not the city's fault that they filled those ditches in and people's homes are getting flooded. So I really would like to see that looked into. Just a couple things today. Garden City Presbyterian Church asked me to announce that they are having a community health fair on July 20th from 9:30 to 2 p.m. for all ages. And there will be free testing of blood pressure, eyes, hearing, dental, height and weight, sugar. And there will also be activities for the kids when they're waiting their turn for their test. There'll be a bounce house, kid craft table, adult craft table, free food, and more. That'll be July 20th from 9:30 to 2, and I'll announce it a little bit closer. The last thing I have tonight is from the Garden City Garden Club. They are having a backyard bouquet contest in partnership with the Garden City Historical Museum, and that will also be on Saturday, July 20th. And it's for anybody, any age. We're asking people to do their, to put together a bouquet of backyard flowers. Doesn't necessarily have to be their backyard. It can be their neighbors or, but it can't be bought flowers. And anyway, you bring it up to the museum either Friday night or Saturday early in the morning, and we're going to have a People's Choice Award. So the people going to the garden walk will be voting, and then we will have some local florists who will be voting. There will be prizes. There's no cost to participate. And this is for the people who have really nice flowers in their garden, but maybe not a backyard they want on the garden walk, so they can participate. The garden walk is the 20th. It is a fundraiser. One of the things that they do with the money that they make at the fundraisers, just this spring, the club purchased 50 trees for City Park, and we'll be planting those with the help of DPS, thank you, in the next week or so. But they've also, help with downtown at the Commons and stuff. So the money goes for a good cause, and it's a fun activity. If you have any questions about the flower contest or the walk, there'll be flyers at Barson's and also at Maplewood Community Center. That's all I have tonight.
Thank you. Councilmember Kerwin?
I don't have anything tonight.
Okay. Councilmember
I'm
Lynch?
going to pass tonight also.
Okay. Councilmember Jacob?
I just have one thing. I want to pass along my condolences to Mike Dicker's family. He was a longtime resident of Garden City. He was a Vietnam veteran that was well-known at the Legion. He passed away, and he will be greatly missed. And that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Squire?
Nothing tonight, thank you.
Councilmember Earl?
Just one quick thing, and I'm glad that Tracy, right? I'm glad that you brought up supporting that police and fire because it's very important. I just wanted to clarify one thing about the dispatch because I've had this asked for me before and I was going to speak on it anyways. Quite a few years ago, and Chief, if I screw this up, correct me, Garden City, Wayne, Westland, and Inkster all had their own dispatchers, but they were on the same radio frequency, and it was horrible. I was working Inkster at the time, and it was unprofessional, and it was not cost-effective. So they came together in a consortium. Westland was doing the dispatching, saved us some money, but it wasn't the greatest dispatching in the world, and costs were going to go up because their equipment was outdated. So we've moved to Dearborn, and they are it's saving us money, and the dispatching services are a lot more updated, a lot more professional, so we should see some really good quality improvements in dispatching. So I think it's been a positive move, and I just want to clear, because I've had about 6 or 7 people ask me about it, so I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Miller?
I have nothing this evening. Thank you.
Okay. Chief Tim Gibbons, I'm going to put you on the spot. I hope you don't mind if you come to the podium. I just thought of it. This is our last meeting before July 4th, and every year fireworks is a hassle for a lot of people in our city. So I understand there's been a law change at state level on fireworks.
Well, there has, but the ultimate point in Garden City is when it comes to commercial fireworks, there's really nowhere you can shoot them off legally.
Right.
It's got to be outside of a certain range of any homes or residences. So really in Garden City, whether it's before or after the holiday, if it's a commercial firework, you can't be shooting them off anywhere near our residents. It has to be on private property, and it has to be very far away from a home.
Are we going to have extra officers out on?
Every 4th of July, we have an extra officer out, 2 officers.
I know we can't stop them all,
responding.
but you got to consider the pets, the dogs. It drives them crazy. Their hearing is a lot more sensitive than human hearing. You also are veterans. You got PSPD. It affects them too. Please take into consideration. And if you want to light fireworks off, go out in the country. But our houses are too close together to.
Yeah, it really bothers a lot of our residents. It really creates negatively affects the quality of life, both the pets,
Can you give the legal times and dates if they have the proper space to do it?
If they had the proper space to do it before and after the holidays.
The 3rd, the 4th, and the 5th. And that's it, right?
And that's it. And
up till 11 p.m.
Up till 11 p.m. And, really though, if you're drinking, no fireworks. If you're too close to a house, which we've mapped it out, there's really nowhere you can shoot it. So if we catch you doing it, you're going to get cited. We're going to take the fireworks because you're using them illegally. So, please, it would be great if everyone respected their neighbors and respected this is a bedroom community. The homes are quite close together.
Okay.
It's not a place for commercial fireworks.
Thank you.
That's the reason
Sorry
our
I
ordinance-
called you out on the spot, but this is the last meeting before July 4th.
Absolutely, no problem at all, Mayor. Thank you.
It's also the mess, Mayor. Remember last year, a lot of complaints, citizens saying the parks were destroyed with fireworks all over the place, so nobody cleaned up once they shot them off in the park, so.
Yeah.
Which isn't allowed. It's public property, so you're not allowed to shoot it off per Garden City ordinance in public. Not allowed to scoot them off.
School lots and parks, you're not allowed to light fireworks.
You'd have to have a very large
We will have officers
private
out there
lot.
looking and writing tickets.
That's right, we'll be out in force.
Okay, thank you, Chief. Okay, the Golden Book residents, we mailed this to every house and every business. If you don't have a copy, come up to City Hall and get one. It has all the phone numbers. You got any question about ordinances? You want to know who to call about potholes, about high grass, your neighbor's fence, anything. It's covered in this book, and it's, like I said, every phone number is in here that you need. So use this book. That's why we mailed them to you. Let's help keep Garden City looking great, keep fighting blight. But we mailed these out for a purpose. We wanted you guys to use it. It's a great tool to have in your house. And if you don't have one, come up to City Hall and get one. That's all I have tonight. No further business. This meeting's adjourned. Thank you.